Wild, wild game last night. Florida State, LSU. Florida State looks good at a lot of parts. You know, they can run the football. Jordan Travis getting better and better. He looks like a really decent college quarterback at this point. They threw him in young, and now he's growing up, and he's a junior now. He's leading the team. He's got that swag and that chip, and Florida State needs the swag and chip. That's the thing about that program. They need the chip on their shoulder. They needed this game. I mean, after Jacksonville State, after losing 4 games, they kind of got it. Last year, they salvaged the year and were competitive down the stretch. Now you look at Florida State, and the ACC is not very good. They're playing a talented SEC team with a bunch of NFL guys. Jaden Daniels, for the majority of the game, struggled. Jordan Travis hit that play to that wide receiver that is really a wide receiver that's been through a lot, but is really trying to he's really rolling. I mean, that wide receiver, guys, I'm going to pull up who that wide receiver is. He has a really great first name, too. It was a hell of a game last night, guys. A hell of a football game. Florida State, LSU. I mean, Florida State controlled that thing. You know, LSU made 2 huge special teams errors. Jaden Daniels from the pocket throwing the ball. Him and Keyshawn Boutte, I mean, that's going to be one of the biggest stories in college football. Keyshawn Boutte visibly very frustrated with not getting the football. I don't know if he's being impatient. I think Keyshawn Boutte is being impatient because it is a new quarterback in Jaden Daniels. But that offensive pass game was not very good for a majority of the game. But then Jaden Daniels, the fourth quarter comes on, and he was lights out in the fourth quarter. They scored like 14 points. And that 99-yard drive was a thing of beauty from Jaden Daniels. He gives you that mobile element of really, you know, when the play breaks down, he's able to go ahead and get you 15 yards. So he's very dynamic. He's a dynamic guy with the ball in his hands, Jaden Daniels, from the quarterback standpoint. And then his accuracy got better. I mean, intermediately and short, he can be very, very accurate throwing the football. And he can be a really decent player. You know, Garrett Nussmeier, the fact that he is not as mobile as Jaden Daniels, you know, he's got to be just that much better throwing the ball and creating those explosives if he's going to win the quarterback battle. But last night it was ugly for a lot of the game. You give credit to Florida State's defense. They had a nice plan. They really controlled the game. They did a wonderful job. And this was a huge win for Florida State. It would have been a devastating loss. You get the ball down at the 9-yard line after LSU makes some brutal mistakes. LSU doesn't play very well. And then you call a toss play. Awful. You should have just kneeled the ball or just should have ran it up the gut, kicked a field goal or a touchdown. And then you let up a 99-yard drive by playing a lot of prevent defense. Give credit to LSU. They made some spectacular plays. Jaden Daniels made some spectacular throws. And then, you know, it would have just been a heartbreaking loss that you wouldn't have forgotten anytime soon. But then the fact that on that extra point, you blocked that extra point, that's a magical play in the Mike Norvell era. That is magical. You know, the game of college football, the game of life sometimes is a game of inches. You know, and a game of coincidence. Like, were you there by your phone when you got that call from somebody who's going to give you a new job? You know, were you at that dinner? You know, just like Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, they met up in Mexico. They just happened to be at the same resort, and that happened to lead to a Super Bowl. You could look at Mike Norvell, and if this Norvell thing works, we can talk back to that play. And if LSU beats them in overtime, you know, that even if the team goes 7-5, that's just such a gut punch, man. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, human nature, you can act like PJ Fleck and act like momentum's not a big deal. That's the ultimate gut punch, losing a game like that, choking. You have the ball. This is a huge game. Your fans travel all the way out to Louisiana. This is year 3 in Norvell. It hasn't gone that well early, but it's a journey. And now the kids are seeing the fruit of their labor. And now you can look back to all the great plays from Jordan Travis and all of the plays that you had. And now you can look back and say, damn, you know, that was special. Instead of, we choked it away, you can look at, we had a lot of adversity, but we made the play at the end of the game when it mattered. So LSU, let me tell you about LSU. They're not going to be all that great, I don't think, this season. They don't look that great. They already have, fragments of the team that doesn't like each other. They look like an average SEC team. I think Arkansas can beat LSU. I think LSU 6 or 7 wins at max. They don't look very good. They're not that good. Are they going to improve that much? I don't think so. They're starting a lot of freshmen. I mean, Will Campbell looked really good last night as a tackle. But their running game is not dynamic at all. So do you have a lot of holdovers from the Orgeron, a lot of transfers out of that program? Now, I don't think they're that solid. So, but for Florida State, this game was a million times more important for a year 3 Norvell than Brian Kelly in year 1. I'll tell you that much. So I'm trying to find the game stats from last night, but man, oh man, this was a huge win. I mean, it's the way you win games, man. I mean, that's the way I'll tell you the receiver, man. I love the receiver from Florida State. He made some big-time plays in the game. Wilson. Ontario Wilson. He's called something else, though. He has a nickname, Pokey Wilson. Pokey! Dude, Pokey Wilson's a stud. I just love the name. I love the player. Man. Pokey Wilson, man. What a player. What a guy. Such a fun player for college football. Best name in college football, and he made some big-time plays last night. That catch was amazing. One-handed grab. So that's Florida State. That's LSU.